And we are back, vlog number 9 on my new plan, and checking in at 115 kilos body weight, which is quite a bump from last few weeks, and that does not make me feel comfortable at all. So I'm gonna kind of pull back on my food a bit because I tend to start looking a bit puffy, and yeah, looks is definitely not something I'm trying to chase at the moment, but these extra couple kilos that I have gained has made me a bit sluggish in terms of what I can do in my training, and I have slight inflammation in my left knee, the knees that has been bothering me for a bit ever since I kind of pulled my hamstring years ago. But that's predominantly of extra weight gain, and because to get the amount of food I eat now, I do need to kind of go off plan, so to speak, and eat some processed foods, which is never good for your joints, ever. So when people say, oh yeah, sugars are not bad for you and this and that, okay, try to eat 7,000 calories a day and focus on glycogen storage, glycogen restorage from sugars only. Good luck with your joints. That's all I can say. But yeah, so my supplement stack is not going to change because of my weight gain being slightly too quick than I would like it to be. I could easily just kind of drop the hammer and go really hard and get to 120, 125 kilos if I wanted to at this point, but I really don't want to. I don't want to feel uncomfortable doing what I do now. It's my last heavy week before I have a deload week next week, mainly to give my joints a bit of a break and then ramp up intensity again. So my fitness trackers, my things I follow up are my blood pressure and my resting heart rate, two predominantly most important ones for me at the moment, and obviously my sleep and whatnot, that comes slightly afterwards. So my resting heart rate has gone up slightly since I gained my weight, so I want to make sure my resting heart rate goes down again before I push or allow my body to get heavier again, because I don't want to become inefficient and just look big. It just does not sit well with me. I am slightly above average size. Let's be honest, at my height, 115, 120 kilos is already a bit ridiculous, especially if you're not fat, so it looks crazy. So, but yeah, video is going to be up there. So as it stands for subs at the moment, it will stand at test 500 and PP at 200 and Primo 200 for as long as needed. So really, I'm not going to change anything. I just got my blood testing kit from a Medichecks, so I'm going to get myself tested for recent bloods somewhere after New Year, because all labs are shut now, Christmas and whatnot. But after New Year, I'm definitely going to retest everything, see where I am, see where it's going. And but as regards to training, it's going to become a bit more complex. So still a lot of jumping, still a lot of rolling, still not pushing myself to limits, still not trying to train for just getting tired, still not trying to train to fail. Pushing hard. If anyone is following me on Instagram, you could see some lifts that I do not try to work out until I can't move anymore, because I'm too big for that, too much damage, and that would mean more rest and recovery, which I sadly don't have time for. So to make sure that I can train efficiently every single day I train, I just need to train smarter and train actually less. So I had quite a few questions, and I'll start with the first one. How do you get ready for hypertrophy block? Well, it depends massively on million factors. And one thing I am very passionate about is understanding that you can't train same at different ages. So if you are 16, 17, 18 years young, and you're trying to train like 40, 50-year-olds, it's not going to get you very far, and vice versa. When you are extremely experienced, been in the gym for 15, 20, 30 years, you can't train like an idiot that you were at 16, 17 when you could get away with whatever the hell you did. Mainly, differences are not in age, but in responsibilities. So you have, bear in mind, the older, the more experienced you get, no matter how stupid you have been and unintelligent with your training, you will be stronger than someone who's just starting out. Your joint integrity will be higher. Presumably your wear and tear on joints will be much higher as well, so you need to be smarter. And outside stresses will be much higher at higher age than lower. You know, I enjoyed training when I was still in high school. All I had to care about, get good grades and go to the gym. That's it. Literally, no care in the world. You could train to failure every single time and go home and recover and train next day same, you know, because you did not have all external stressors like you have, like running a business, paying your bills, meeting up with your friends, looking up after your loved ones and this and that. That's the, so to speak, age. When in reality, number you put on yourself is just an excuse to be lazier. In reality, you just need to understand, okay, I have more responsibilities. I do need to have energy for them as well. So maybe I can't train the way I used to train when I was like 17, 16, 20, and so on. So how do you get ready for hypertrophy block is understand that you need to be fit for the purpose. If you haven't done anything like that, you're ready for hypertrophy. If you're already big, large, very strong, you need to make sure that you're injury-free to begin with. You need to make sure that you have time allocated to train. You need to make sure you can afford it. Finances, time, your stress management abilities, all those kind of things needs to come in play. Hypertrophy is probably the easiest one of all styles of training because all you need to do is try to reach as close to failure as you can and then give yourself time to recover. You don't really need to track all this obsessive, progressive overload stuff and whatnot, because you can do leg extensions one workout, leg curls next workout, squats third one, and your legs will still gonna grow. As it comes to strength trainings, then you need to be specific. You need to train the movement for the strengths you're trying to develop. For squat, you'll have to squat a lot, frequent and precise. Yeah, those to get ready for hypertrophy block, you just need to know what's where, how, and what you can actually tolerate. Cardio prep for hypertrophy. So here is a tricky one. You don't need it if you are extremely active already. Like when I just started out, I didn't never even think about cardio and whatnot. This concept only kind of dawned on me when I started to talk with professional athletes, world's strongest man athletes, ex-rugby players and whatnot. Everyone that is ridiculously big, ridiculously strong, a lot of muscle on them, have had very prolonged exposure to some kind of fitness. Maybe team sports, maybe semi-professional gymnastics, or God knows what else. When you speak to someone who's extremely powerful and big and start unwrapping their history, you will find that there have been prolonged period of time where they did something very fitness based. I played a lot of team sports. I cycled every single day. I was walking to school and back miles and miles and miles every single flipping day. So my cardiovascular health was probably 10 times more superior than it's now without even trying. I just did it because I had to. I didn't have a car, I didn't have anything. Just to get to school, it could take me an hour to walk and then get back, and then walk to gyms, and walk back, and walk to see my friends, and walk back. It's like 6 hours of walking every single day. So you didn't even think about those kind of things. Whereas now, I need to make sure that I kind of don't sit and rely on me being fit just because I move a little bit. So this is why I check my resting heart rate and whatnot, and it's much easier to understand where you're at, you know, like Oura rings and Apple watches and God knows what else now we have available. Whereas before I didn't even need to, because that would never become an issue, me being lazy would have never become a thing, because for me to become like that, that would mean just sit at home and do nothing, which with me has never sat down well. Now, yeah, it's much easier to be that kind of way because of social media exposure. You don't need to go anywhere to just socialize and chat shit with your friends. But at the time when I was growing up, when I was training and whatnot, didn't even have mobile phones. I didn't have any phones. So that's what you get for coming from a country that was far behind any other part of the world. So it seems like I have skipped 50 years by just moving to a different country. If that makes sense to anyone, but for those who have lived similar ways that I do, it probably makes a lot of sense. When you go from having a gas lamp to just light your way to school, to jumping in school buses, trains, planes, and whatnot within a flick just by changing countries. So yeah. Then, what to optimize for hypertrophy? A few things I would look into. First of them would be digestion. If you're one of those who can eat whatever the hell you want, whenever the hell you want, great. Stop being an asshole and eating whatever the hell you want, whenever the hell you want. Because that's not going to get you very far. Yeah, you might look cool in front of your friends by eating fish and chips and God knows what other garbage, and thinking that you are the smartest man on the planet. But it will catch up with you sooner or later. And bear in mind, people who do that most often do that just in front of you, and then for the rest of the day they don't eat anything. I know a guy who always goes like, yeah, I always eat takeaways and this and that, and he looks great. But he looks great because he eats 2 meals a day. That's it. Like, it's not a rocket science that you're gonna look great if you're in calorie deficit all the time. But I can guarantee his bloods are not the best, which I can feel now because of my diet. My diet has over 200 grams of fat a day, and I feel sluggish on that, so I will cut back to under 200 grams, not over 200 grams. So probably will try to get 150-ish, unless I can sort out what kind of fat I eat, because at the moment I just eat any kind of fat. Another thing, sleep. Sleep is heavily underrated. Like I was saying, if you're younger, you probably sleep much better because you have less stress. You have less commitments, you overthink less, you want to do less, you're focused on 1-2 things at a time. You don't try to run into wall with your head forward and not caring about consequences. So sleep becomes extremely important when you actually don't sleep. You know, like I said, when you're younger, you can pass out in any place and fall out. I used to fall asleep anywhere, and I have literally fallen asleep on a tree. Like when I was going to high school, we would go to gym, train, then go swim, then set a fire next to the river and just hang out, and I would climb a tree and fall asleep. That's how easy it was. Whereas now I just don't want to sleep. So I need to actually have a routine. Okay, you need to wind down, you need to preserve energy, you need to recover your brain so your muscles can recover as well, because one cannot be sustained at optimal level without another. And if you just train hard and not sleep, you're not only compromising your muscle growth, you also compromise your mental capacity. So this is another thing why I'm so obsessed with writing everything down. This helps your brain rewire everything and work better. Look after it as much as you look after your muscle. Then timing of everything you do. When you wake up, when you eat, when you train, when you hang out with mates, and so on and so forth. The bigger you are, the bigger you get, the more precise you need to be with these things, because every little thing can mess you up completely. So if you're just starting out, if you don't have a hell of a lot of muscle, you can get away with way more than it is when you are more experienced, stronger, and have a ton of muscle on you. Then every little skipped meal, every little exposure to stress will affect you massively. Another thing is, where did I get stuck? Oh, your commitments. So you need to put them in a line. You know, when you do what and all those kind of things, you need to understand that with different ages, you will have different commitments. And like I said, the younger you are, the less you actually care about those commitments. And the older you get, the higher consequences of not following through those commitments become. So you need to take that in account and to get ready for hypertrophy block. Okay, right, I'm trying to build up a family. Dude, good luck with building a muscle. You know, unless you have a really supportive partner and whatnot, you will have to account for a lot of things that usually would not be in your daily schedule, you know. So you need to be realistic. Okay, I'm not trying to get optimum rate of muscle development at this time, but I'll try to be at my best to make sure that not everything I have gained so far has gone to gutter. And when things calm down, then I can push hard again. And last but not least, to get ready for hypertrophy block, you would preferably try to get as lean as possible first. It's way easier to gain muscle when you're leaner. It's way easier to stick to your routines when you're leaner, when you see everything developing and so on and so forth, instead of hiding yourself in baggy shit and just hide it under comments. Oh yeah, I'm in improvement season. Oh, for fuck's sake, dude. You're just fat folk. It's not gonna work. So try to get your body fat levels fairly low, so your insulin sensitivity is high, so your appetite is high as well, and you actually enjoy moving around. Like I said, a high body fat, high body weight will cause a lot of wear and tear on your joints and a lot of inflammation as well. You don't want that. You're going to cause inflammation just from training alone, never mind everything else. Try to get lighter, leaner, and then focus on growing. Next thing, what's my preferred way to optimize hypertrophy? So it's interesting because my goal is never to get bigger, really. My goal is to look good whilst getting strong. And getting stronger will inevitably make you bigger if you eat for the purpose, and vice versa. If you are just training and never feeding yourself enough, you're never going to grow. If you're never going to sort out your sleep, you're never going to progress anywhere. So just be realistic. What can you do to optimize your ability to grow? Have you got time for it? Have you got resources? It's flipping expensive. The bigger you get, the more expensive it gets. Predominantly food amount and expenses, and when you get to point where you eat more than you spend time working and hanging out with someone, then you ideally want to find someone who cooks for you. That's extra expenses, so take that into account, you know. And also, have you got patience? Because the more advanced you get, the harder it gets. The more patience you need, you know. A lot of people get to the point where nothing happens and let's jump on a bandwagon and ram a ton of drugs. Yeah, it's gonna work. It inevitably, that's what they do. But you're gonna sacrifice a lot of health for that. Do you really want to rush through something just because your strategy to optimize your muscle growth is piss poor? By all means, do whatever the hell you want, but make sure everything else is optimal before you even think about that. Like at the moment, I'm gonna stick to my supplement plan and not change a bit until I get stuck, which means until I can increase my food, until I'm still recovering well, until I can kind of maintain my mental clarity and everything else is fine. I will never even think about, okay, I need to pump up something just to grow quicker. What's the point? Because the muscle amount you can pack on is negligible. I think it was like 0.5 gram a day or something like that. So like 15 grams a month. Yeah, bear in mind, lean muscle tissue and lean muscle mass are probably slightly different things, because muscle cell can retain glycogen and water and whatnot. So you can add way more weight than just those couple grams. But it's still a painful process. Painfully slow and annoying process. If you don't have patience, you're not going to get very far. You will get probably to majority of people kind of settle at around 100 kilos and that's it. Anything above that, it becomes really hard. But yeah, this is where mental resilience becomes extremely important. Pushing through when even you don't see any results. So that's what you need to my 4 points for you to optimize yourself being ready for hypertrophy block is: make sure you have time for it, make sure you have resources for it, make sure you have patience for it, and make sure you are mentally ready to push through even when you don't see results. Then moving on to next one. Am I a genetic freak that I can eat so much and not get fat? No, I am not. I was actually very skinny when I started, and I maintained that kind of size for a very, very, very long time until I moved to UK and Gary Lister told me, you know what, you need a bit more food and you'll look great, because you look jacked as fuck, but you're tiny. You might be strong, but you're tiny. Reasons why I'm strong is probably genetic, because my joints, if you see these wrists, they are much thicker than anyone else's at my height and my weight. Just the other day, a couple of days ago, I was comparing it to Neil Curry, IBB Pro. Actually qualified for Mr. Olympia last year, and he didn't know that, and he didn't make it to Mr. Olympia. And his bone structure is much thinner compared to mine. He's a taller guy. He's around same body weight, but he looks phenomenal and 3 times bigger than me, because he has a bone structure that's definitely his advantage for bodybuilding. So for me to look somewhat decent, somewhat pleasing, I need to be a mass freak. Otherwise, I just look weird. I just look like a square, and I can't do anything about it just because of my bone structure. You can't thin down your bones. It's just not going to happen. So yeah, when it comes to genetic freak, only genetic freak is my bone structure. But when it comes to calories consumed, is just I know that when you push calories aggressively after a period of hard dieting, your body will predominantly focus on building tissue rather than storing it, if it makes sense, because you have worked so long just to be in a calorie deficit and trying to build yourself down. Now your body thinks that you will be working out like that all the time. So, and because of that, your body tries to get bigger, stronger, instead of fatter and sluggier. And that's all there is. And bear in mind, I move a lot. I move probably way more than anyone else. When I don't work with face-to-face clients, but when I used to work, I would lift over 70 tons of steel before I even started working on myself. So those calories for me was barely maintenance. Whereas now I'm on 5,000, 5,500 calories, and I'm growing. And whereas before I had to have 6,500 calories, 7,000 calories to maintain lower body weights than I am now. So it's nothing genetic, it's just math. So simple as it goes. Then there are quite a few more bits, but yeah, I will touch on them. So it's pros and cons on effort intensity, failure, and why failure might be detrimental, which is fair play. And like I said, it comes down to getting bigger, stronger than you have been, and the bigger and stronger you get, the more you want to stay away from through failure, because risks outweigh rewards at that point. Like for me to get to failure, it takes hell of a lot now, and if I did that too often, too frequent, I would just rip my joints apart and I would not be very good anymore. You know, when you can't lift anything, then yeah, try to get to failure. Your joints can tolerate whatever the hell you want, but like now I would not even try to get to true failure every single workout, maybe every other week or so. Just because recovery from those kind of sessions takes way longer than it used to do before, and yeah, it's just too time consuming and too risky for me to do that anymore. And another thing, how do I take my mindset away from not training to failure? Because yeah, I'm an asshole who does that way too often, way too frequent, and it's just knowing that if I do, I break down my body to a point where I cannot train anymore. So within 6 weeks of any new training cycle, I usually burn out physically because I still have that stupid thing of taking myself to failure, which I have consciously taken out now by planning deload every 7th week. So like I spoke at the beginning of this video, this is week 7 of my heavy training session, and next week will be my deload. And I should have taken my deload week now because I can feel my knees starting to swell up a little bit and other things. So it's just making notes, like over and over and over and over again, and realizing what works for you and what doesn't. We are not the same. And if you have the same mindset like I do, you will soon realize it might sound fun when you train all out and whatnot, and you might look good also because you train really hard, but it will have negative effect on your sleep, it will have negative effect on your digestion, it will have negative effect on your muscle growth, and so on and so forth. It's only so long you can do that. When you stack it up with everything else outside the gym, with all the life stresses, business, family, friends, you're just starting to fall back when you could have made more progress by slowly being a bit more mature and pulling back. So I have a few more questions, but I'm going to leave it for next video. I don't want to make this too long so they're not too boring. And on that note, I'm going to sign out. It's 21st of December 2021. Next video will be after Christmas. I'll speak to you soon.